Oi punters, did you know that Australia is the most secretive democracy in the world? I didn't know that. Why is it? Let's take a look. Here's a video I just made and put up on Instagram. If you've seen it, skip it. If not, let's take a watch.
Oi, did you know Australia's the most secretive democracy in the world? Yeah. Not at liberty to say, but we've got very good reason. Australia's passed more government secrecy laws than any other democracy in the world. Well, we take national security very seriously. Alright, as long as these laws aren't being used to prosecute people who expose government wrongdoing, then it's probably okay. We would never do such a thing. Except for Richard Boyle. Sorry, you're prosecuting Richard Boyle. What did he do? Oh, well, he told everyone that the Australian Tax Office was taking money directly from people's bank accounts without proper oversight. Apparently, they weren't acting proportionately or appropriately and destroying small business. Well, were they? Yeah, they were. But we fixed the issues now. Because of Richard Boyle? Yeah. Who you're prosecuting? Yeah. For telling the truth? Mm-hmm. How long do you want him to go to prison for? 46 years? What? But this is Australia. We've got freedom of the press. No, we don't. But I've got freedom of speech. No, you don't. Hey, we've got some laws that protect whistleblowers. No, we don't. You're right, they don't work at all.
Here's the article right here. Australia may well be the world's most secretive democracy. This New York Times article points out that one journalist was being investigated for reporting several boats with asylum seekers coming here. Another reporter had her home raided by the authorities after reporting a government plan to expand surveillance powers. And then we remember a couple years ago that the Australian Federal Police raided the ABC about the story that was written about war crimes committed by Australian soldiers. And then it goes on to say the aggressive approach which Australia's Prime Minister at the time, Scott Morrison, has defended. So the excuse always is national security, got to keep Australia safe. But all that seems to be often happening is that the government uses the laws that they've passed to prosecute people that expose the things that the government does wrong that just makes the government look bad. More than 800 secrecy laws keeping Australian government information from the public, a paper shows. So Australia has more than 800 secrecy and non-disclosure laws criminalising the release of vast swaths of information held by the federal government, according to a new government paper. But we have a new Prime Minister, Conrad. Surely old Albo isn't as secretive as 5 ministerial portfolio ScoMo, who clearly had a desire to hoard as much power as he possibly could and hide it from everybody. But it turns out that Albo, it's been a couple years and he has done sweet nothing about it. In fact, 3 prosecutions began under Scott Morrison. One was cancelled by Mark Dreyfus. He has the power, this bloke here. He's got the power to stop all these prosecutions that people are saying, hey, if you're prosecuting whistleblowers, we need them to expose what's wrong in the government, and you're discouraging them by locking them in jail or making them spend years fighting these cases in court. The whistleblower that exposed alleged war crimes, he has now, I believe he's gone to jail. I think there's still an appeal ongoing, but Mark Dreyfus at any time could have ended this. And obviously, if people are just giving out secrets and it's not in the public interest and it turns out that the allegations were false, then by all means, that person exposed secret information and the public had no right to know, and there's good reasons to keep things secret. But we're finding out that the government is just hiding things. That just makes the government look bad, and then they're just prosecuting people so that no one speaks up about government wrongdoing. So here's one going on right now. We've got the ATO, the Australian Tax Office, debt recovery actions against small business is crippling. So a bloke named Richard Boyle came out, I think he was working with the ATO, and he was pointing out that the ATO was being overly aggressive and potentially criminal in how they were pursuing the debts that small business owners owed the government. Now, geez, I wish the ATO could be that aggressive when pursuing any of these tax dodgers. Let's just get this up. I love bringing this website out. Hey, ATO, I've got a list here of massive corporations. If you want to aggressively go after their tax dodging, ExxonMobil, 97 billion, zero tax paid. Get aggressive with these guys, right? Put your efforts into this. But no. The ATO, it chooses to come after small business owners here. And old mate Richard Boyle spoke up about this, took files and evidence, took it to the media, and now he's facing 46 years in prison. Apparently, were his allegations unfounded? Well, let's sort of take a look. So the Ombudsman had a look into these claims against it, and it concluded the ATO's use of various debt recovery actions, one of which was just taking money directly from people's bank accounts. And obviously, if you're a small business, you need that money to pay for certain things. And the government, one day just ups and takes the money that they say they owe you. And then your business is cooked because, I don't know, they're taking the money out. So maybe there's some scenarios where that's necessary, but I hope you've got good oversight, and I hope you're not overusing these powers, and I hope you have proper oversight. But what comes out in this report is that it's happening without proper oversight. So the review that was conducted, which rightly so should happen if something dodgy is going on, they said they didn't find evidence of a cash grab. Okay, that's good. But they did say that the ATO did not always use its powers proportionately and appropriately. And immediate action needs to be taken to improve the ATO's heavy-handed enforcement actions such as garnishing notices, effective freezes, a small business bank account, and they concluded that immediate action should be taken to improve the way the ATO does these sorts of things. So, job done. Whistleblower puts his hand up, says something's wrong. The organisation doesn't listen to him, so he goes to the media and says, I think the public have a right to know. And then it goes to an inquiry, and the independent review says, yeah, I mean, it's not super bad, but it's pretty bad, so maybe you guys should improve it. And then what happens? Well, then the government spends your tax dollars to prosecute this whistleblower to try and lock him up for 46 years. Now, this case has been going for 5 or 6 years now. It's still ongoing, and the bloke can't work, super not a great situation to be in. Which brings us back to the more than 800 secrecy laws. Once again, Mark Dreyfus can end these prosecutions at any time. He chooses not to. We have so many secrecy laws. You would surely think that Anthony Albanese and Mark Dreyfus, they want to improve this and have more government transparency, right? Well, it's been a couple years now, and I think the answer is a firm no. They don't really have any interest in doing that. For the last 20 years, since 9/11, Australia has undertaken an aggressive expansion of security powers. They label everything national security, and then they just hide everything they possibly can and criminalise anyone that exposes any sort of wrongdoing and really, really discourage it. And so let's quickly not forget here that Australia actually does not have constitutional protection for freedom of speech. But don't we have whistleblower laws that protect people? Well, new evidence proves Australia's whistleblower laws are failing. These whistleblower laws have not worked to protect anybody who has exposed proven government wrongdoing. Weird. Great laws we've got there. The bad news is Albo doesn't seem to want to solve these problems. But the good news is there's a bloke called Rex Patrick. Now, this guy is just hammering the government with freedom of information requests every single time. And what he's found in his, journey to just trying to get information out of the government that we, the people, should probably see and understand. You want a good government, you need transparency, so you're not being dodgy and making yourself the minister of 5 different areas of government without anybody knowing. Scott Morrison, well done. So this former Senator Rex Patrick actually recently won a court case against Anthony Albanese and the government. So last week, there was a major breakthrough for transparency in Australian politics, but yes, not one of Anthony Albanese's making. After a lengthy battle waged by former Senator Rex Patrick, the hero in this scenario, $200,000 spent by the Commonwealth arguing against it. I don't know about you, but seems cheap. But that's your tax dollars. Your tax dollars are being used to help cover up the dodgy dealings of politicians. So awesome use of money there. The federal court handed down a ruling outlawing the common practice of denying freedom of information requests to ministerial documents simply because the responsible minister has left the office. So what they were essentially doing, if someone did something dodgy, I believe Christian Porter did a few little dodgy things. He was suing the ABC with some dark funded money that no one could get access to. Where's this money coming from? It's coming from somewhere. So what the government would normally do, they get a freedom of information request, and then the government will just drag it out as long as possible, deny it when they could. And they were denying it for a reason that, oh, well, the minister's left now, so, we can't give it to you. And so obviously if a government wants to cover up some dodgy dealings, they can just shift the minister from one portfolio to another, shuffle him around the cabinet, and then all that information pertaining to that dodgy scam, the sports rort scandal, whatever's going on, they can just say, sorry, we don't have any info to give you. So there's a little win. There's a little win. So Australia has been made this much more transparent. But we have a long way to go. So the next thing that I think we punters should really focus on is getting ministerial diaries to be made public. And here's Jim Chalmers and Dreyfus open up their diaries. Thank you, guys. But the Prime Minister refuses. So one thing we ought to have is that we should be able to see, within whatever time frame, who is meeting with the Prime Minister, who is meeting with different members of Parliament, when, for how long, how often, because then we can actually see who has the most access to our elected politicians and who has the least. And if politicians knew that the bookings that they were making were going to be made public, they might think twice about taking a lot of meetings with some of their massive corporate donors, because then it would be very obvious. So transparency is the way to go. Australia, unfortunately, has a long, long way to go when it comes to exposing what our politicians do. We cannot hold them to account if we don't know what they're doing. And people obviously won't speak up when people are doing something wrong because they don't want to end up in prison, because that's what's happening to the people in Australia who see something that the public ought to know, that the public deserves to know, wrongdoing of the government, but because of these heavy-handed, almost deliberately crafted secrecy laws, it takes a brave person to stand up and speak out, because you're literally risking your home or your freedom, and you'll end up going to jail. So any politician that is calling for more transparency in government, I'm all for it. Albo could change these laws at any time. He could begin to wind back some of these laws that are designed to prosecute whistleblowers, some of these laws that are designed to hide information that the public has a right to know, that are designed to hide that stuff from the public. He could do that. There is a crossbench in the Senate ready to go. I believe David Pocock is railing on about this. More transparency in government. Let's see who's meeting with the ministers. Let's see where donations are coming from. Let's sort this stuff out. Let's have more transparency. But the Labor government then teams up with the Liberal government because they both have so many secrets to hide, and all they're worried about is getting elected, and they don't want another scandal to come up and ruin their chances again. So unfortunately, the major parties are not going to solve this problem. Thanks for watching. Fact checks welcome, citations necessary in the comments below. I'm just a punter here trying to work it all out. Massive thanks to We the Punters over on Patreon. If you want to show your support, you can head over there. If not, feel free to share this with a punter who might not know how scammed we're getting, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Cheers, punts.